Please like and comment on the video below. That will allow me to produce better quality videos and more of them in the future. If you're interested in learning to trade successfully on sports, then why not visit the BetAngel Academy, where we have more detailed videos. So when I had a very minor job, I think one of my first jobs that I had, I was hopelessly underpaid. I was in the wrong role, in all honesty. Other than that, it was a great job. I got paid, I think, £7,500 or something a year. It was terrible. And it was a few years back, mind you. But even then, it was still very lowly paid. And what I used to do is I used to moonlight. And if you're not familiar with the expression of moonlighting, it's going out and working while you're working. And I would do a day of work at the place at which I originally worked, and then in the evening I would go out and do private work for clients. And I used to be into technology, so I used to train secretaries on how to use word processing equipment. I would do the IT for smaller businesses that didn't want to employ a big company, and I'd do all of those sort of things. So I would work, and I always have done, incredibly hard. I would get up first thing in the morning, do a bit of stuff. I even once went and sorted out the IT on HMS Ark Royal in Portsmouth once. They had a problem with some laptops and stuff, and I just offered to go across there to help them out, because this guy came in desperate for some help, and I just said, look, I'll pop in after work and see if I can sort you out, and I did, and so they got me to do some bits of work for them. So yeah, it's funny, and I've always said this to you, it's funny what happens if you just stick your head above the parapet and go for stuff. And you'll be amazed if you think positively how many opportunities come your way. And this was how I ended up with that bold statement at the start of this video, was that when I was a bit younger and in a fairly low paid job, I would moonlight, and one of the guys I used to moonlight for was an independent financial advisor. And I didn't know what an IFA was, I had no concept of that entire world really, but I was sort of getting interested in it and going down that route. And when I started to have a conversation with him, same issue again, he came running in and basically one day got in contact with me and just said, look, I've got a problem that needs sorting out, is there anything that you can do? And I just said to him, look, I'll come and see you after work. So anyway, I went round to this IFA and started sorting out all of the stuff that they had, and started rewiring and plugging in things and sorting out the network and just all of that sort of general mundane stuff. And then he started to ask me to look at one of his main systems. And when I was playing around with it, I could see that they had various ledgers, and a ledger is an accounting system. And I was going through the various ledgers, sorting out issues that he had related to all of this sort of stuff, and helping his secretary understand how to use the software. And I said to him, okay, you know, in order to understand what I'm supposed to be doing, can you tell me a bit more about exactly what this is doing? And I said, you know, what are all of these payments down here? And he said, oh, those are dividends. And I said to him, okay, what's a dividend? And he said, well, you buy shares in a company, or you own a company, and then they distribute the profit as a dividend. And I said, well, oh, okay, so they actually pay you part of the profit that they make. And he went, yeah, that's right, that's exactly how it works. And I was thinking, hold on a second here. You can buy shares in a company, they pay you to own the shares, and then you can actually profit from the value of the shares going up as well. And I thought, well, that's something that really interests me, and that's what started my investing career. I had no real concept of investment and stocks and shares and company ownership and dividends until that exact moment when I was in that office. So I just kept on quizzing him more and more and more and more, and trying to understand everything that was going on. It's like, how do you buy shares? What do you do when you own the shares, and how do you sell them, and all of these sort of things. And this was pre-internet, this was a long, long time ago. So yeah, that's what got me into the investing world, was actually doing a job for an independent financial advisor on the side while I was working in another job. And that got me really interested, so I started saving up money and buying shares in companies and following the share price, reading the Financial Times, reading the Investors Chronicle. I had no idea then that years and years later I would actually end up writing about my experiences for a national weekly magazine. Wrote for Shares magazine, a weekly column for 3 years. And that was all about my experience of investing and what that brings to the mix. But when you own shares in a company, then the advantage that you get with owning shares in the company is hopefully you're going to buy them so that they're more valuable at some point in the future. But when you actually own them, they distribute part of the profits that they make as dividends. And I just thought, well, isn't this a beautifully democratic way of running a company? Because if you work for a company, you could buy shares in the company, and then you actually get paid for owning part of the company as well. And that's more or less what I did. In various jobs that I owned over the years, I would actually buy shares in the company, and in one of the companies that I worked for, I negotiated that as part of the package when I joined the company, because then you get this lovely positive feedback loop of getting paid to work for the company and owning part of it as well. And the hilarious thing is when you own part of a company, you can actually turn up at the AGM and quiz the board and management. So again, a beautifully democratic way of doing things. I did this with Betfair. When Betfair floated, I bought shares in Betfair purely so I could go and attend the AGM and get some face time with the management. And that's one of the other things that you get with share ownership, is that you get the ability to do that, and it feels like a much better way of having an interest within a company, because you can give feedback as a shareholder as opposed to just being a customer or an employee. You get immediately in at the higher level. So I've got loads of great experiences of this over many years, but you know, the benefit of owning companies is if you select a company that's likely to do well at some point in the future, then the value of the shares rises. People are willing to pay more and more for them because of the earnings growth that you see, but you get paid for doing it as well, which is absolutely fantastic. And if you look at Berkshire Hathaway stock last year, Berkshire Hathaway stock was up more or less about $50,000 last year. And what did I do to earn that $50,000? Well, the answer is absolutely nothing. I didn't have to sit at a screen and watch anything. I didn't have to make a judgment about going in and out of the market. I didn't have to do any of those things. I just owned the stock, and it turns out that people want to pay more and more for that over the course of the year because the underlying performance of the company is good. And therefore, if I chose to sell those shares at this moment in time, I would have made $50,000 over the course of the year. Now, the fact is, I've owned Berkshire stock for many, many years, and I still haven't sold them because they're generally getting more valuable as time goes on. But part of that is due to their capital structure and the way that they reinvest money. I'm not going to talk about that in this video, but yeah, they don't pay a dividend, curiously, but most of the money that they get gets reinvested within the company, and that's why the shares go up so much in value. So whether you look at it in terms of getting a payment now or at some point in the future, the retained value and the value of those shares has gone up by that amount anyway, despite the fact that I've done absolutely nothing to earn it as such. All I did was take a bit of money, invest it, and wait for that payoff to come in the future. Now, I do own other stocks. I think probably it would be interesting for you to learn about some of the other positions that I hold, and some of them are very big dividend payers. And sometimes that can be an advantage because the income stream that you get from that means that you get money coming in all of the time, and you can choose whether to either spend that money or reinvest it or invest it in another company. But yeah, if you're an investor, then the benefit that you get is you don't actually need to do much. You have to put a lot of energy, effort and thought into what you're going to buy and when, but once you've bought that, that can just sit there as a passive investment, and it can produce true passive income. You will get paid for holding shares, and if you pick the right companies, then that income will rise over time. So yeah, if you want to earn money while you sleep, that's the way that you should do it.